3 Vishnu Purana Part 1 Chapter 1 Introduction and Origin of the Universe. Sage Parashar, the exponent of Vishnu Purana, had narrated this treatise to Maitreya. Sage Sutha inherited it from Maitreya. The text presented here is narrated by Sutha. Sutha says, one day, Maitreya greeted Sage Parashar and said, Gurudev, you have studied all the scriptures. I wish to hear the tale of universe's origin from you. How will be the ages that are about to come? What is the reason for this whole creation? Who created it? Where did it exist? Whom did it mingle with? And with whom it will annihilate eventually? Apart from these, I also wish to hear about the expansion of fathomless sky, origin of ocean and mountains, origin of earth, expansion of the sun, division of time in 4 ages, Pralaya, religion, sages, kings, creation of Vedas by Veda Vyasa, origin of 4 classes in society and system of 4 ashramas in one's life. Parashar says, Maitreya, you have reminded me today of the description once made by my grandfather Vasishtha. When I learned that the monster, which was created by Vishwamitra, had devoured my father, I grew quite angry and started a yagya to destroy all the monsters. The yagya destroyed such a large number of monsters that the whole race began to face the fear of extinction. My grandfather consoled me that too much anger was not good and that all the monsters could not be blamed for my father's death. According to my grandfather was sure to face such a fate ultimately. Only the fools get angry. A human being bears the fruit of his deeds himself. O son, anger destroys all the virtues of penance. Hence, ascetics always shun anger. Hence, stop this yagya, for forgiving has always been the virtue of ascetics. Thus, convinced by my grandfather, I stopped the yagya. At the same time, Brahma's son, Pulastya, arrived there and said, despite your anger, you forgave the monsters when convinced by your grandfather Vasishtha. You will learn all the scriptures and give commentaries on Puranas. You will also learn the real appearance of the gods. Vasishtha also endorsed these words of Pulastya. O Maitreya, now I narrate to you the whole contents of Purana. This whole universe has originated from Lord Vishnu. It is existing within him and will annihilate in him eventually. Parashar says, the trinity of Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh is also known as the creator, the preserver and the destroyer. All of them save the devotees. All of them have equal importance. Still, preserver who fosters and protects all the living beings is far more significant. I salute to him and narrate the tale that was once narrated by Brahma to all the Dakshas. Dakshas had narrated this tale to the king Purukutsa at the bank of the river Narmada. In turn, Purukutsa narrated this tale to Saraswat, who narrated it to me. O Brahman, Lord is eternal and endless. Hence, origin of universe, its existence and annihilation are also unending processes. During the period of Pralaya, the nature exists in a state of equilibrium. It is during this period that Purusha, masculine forces of creation, separates from Prakriti, feminine forces of creation, and Kalroop of Vishnu, eternal, unending form of the Lord, is manifested. Lord Vishnu is beyond all the bonding of life like birth, growth, intelligence, senses, decay and death. Purusha is the first appearance of Lord Vishnu. Prakriti is the manifestation of his action while Kalroop is his supreme appearance. During the Pralaya, there was neither day nor night, neither earth nor sky and neither darkness nor light. At the subsidence of Pralaya, with his desire, the Lord entered the Purusha who is beyond all bonding. His entry stimulated the process of creation. First of all, a single great element originated encompassing all the other lesser elements. From this great element originated three egos: Sattvic, Rajas and Tamas. Tamas created sky with sound as the main virtue. The sky then created the sense of touch. Touch produced air. Hence, touch is the main feature of air. No one can see air but only have an experience of it through touch. Air created Rupa, which gave birth to fire with Rupa as its main virtue. Fire gave birth to taste. Taste produced water with taste as its main property. From water originated scent, which produced earth with scent as the main feature. These senses have no special expression. The ego Rajas produced 10 sense organs, whereas the ruling deities of these organs were produced by Sattvic ego. Thus, the 10 deities who rule 10 sense organs and the 11th entity mind are Sattvic in nature. Skin, eyes, ears, nose and tongue, these 5 organs aid the mind in its function. Omakreya, anus, sex organs, hands, legs and speech organs are the 5 organs that help in action. Works like excretion, reproduction, movement and speech are carried out with the help of these 5 organs. All the 5 elements like sky, air, fire, water and earth are full of emotions. Hence, they are also known to have a special significance. All these elements have different and distinct powers. Without their combination, creation of the universe was impossible. In the beginning, all these elements were present in the great ball or egg, which came into existence because of the inspiration of the Lord. As this ball increased in size, it formed the base as Prakriti, in which Lord Vishnu himself entered as Hiranyagarbha. When the universe comes into existence, Lord Vishnu fosters it till the end of Kalpa. At the end of Kalpa, Lord Vishnu himself devours the entire physical elements in Rudra appearance. During that time, he inundates the entire universe and himself sleeps on Shesha in Kshatrasarga. When he awakes once again, he begins the process of creation in the appearance of Brahma. Chapter 2: Birth of Brahma and Earth saved by Varaha. At the end of the previous Kalpa, when Brahma awakened from his long slumber, he saw all the worlds devoid of everything. With a desire to save the earth from the depth of unfathomable inundation, he took the appearance of Varaha. Entering the water, he reached Patala Loka. Seeing him, the earth prayed him with respect. Hearing her prayers, the Lord roared with frightening sound. Then, he supported the earth on his great incisors and came out from the abysmal depth. When he was rising, his breath produced big sprays of water, which drenched sinless sages while the force of his breath frightened common creatures. When the Lord emerged from the water, all the sages prayed him with reverence and respect. Very soon, the Lord installed the earth at a position far above the unending stretches of water. Then, Lord carved out the topographical features on earth and divided it into many divisions and created all the 4 worlds. Then Lord Vishnu in the guise of Brahma carried out the process of creation. As soon as Brahma thought of creation, Tamoguni, full of darkness, creatures were the first to appear. Absence of knowledge and presence of evils like attachment, anger etc. were the main virtues of these creatures. These creatures include lower organisms, trees, shrubs, creepers, plants and grasses. These together constitute the primitive world. Their creation was followed by the appearance of animals and birds, which are devoid of wisdom and are full of ego. They are also unaware of the nature of another organism of their status. Still unsatisfied with his creation, Lord created the next world, which has a somewhat elevated position. The living beings that were produced in this world had internal and external knowledge, power of reflection, and loved physical comforts. Though this creation pleased the Lord, he was still unsatisfied. So he created the next world, which was situated at a somewhat lower position. This new world had excess of all the three virtues. Human beings populate this world, and because of excess of vices, they are full of sorrow but at the same time, highly active, have internal and external knowledge and are able to attain their goals. The first few creations had resulted from the thoughts of the Lord. For the creation of the gods, the demons, Pitraganas, human beings and water, the Lord decided to use his body. Thus, the demons were the first to emerge from his thighs. The Lord then shed his dark body, which formed the night. Then from his mouth, the Lord produced the gods who had sattvic virtues. The Lord then shed his sattvic body as well, from which the day came into being. It is also the reason why the gods acquire more strength in day and the demons are stronger during nights. Then the Lord acquired yet another body and behaved like Pitraganas to produce Pitraganas before shedding that body too, which gave rise to the dusk, the twilight between the day and the night. Thereafter, the Lord acquired a new body with Rajas virtue, from which the human beings were produced. When the Lord shed that Rajas body, it formed dawn, the twilight between the night and the day. It also explains why the human beings are stronger at dawn and Pitraganas at dusk. Then the Lord assumed yet another body with Rajas virtues and produced desire from it. The desire gave birth to lust. Staying in the darkness then, the Lord created the world, which is full of desire and lust. In that world, many ugly-looking human beings, who had long beard and mustache, appeared and ran towards him. Among those who said, "Protect him," came to be known as Rakshas, demons, and those who said, "We will eat him," came to be known as Yakshas. Then the angry Lord produced aggressive carnivores. Thereafter, the singing Lord produced Gandharvas. Thus, by turns, the Lord produced birds, sheep, goat, cow, horse, elephant, donkey, deer, camel, pony from his age, chest, mouth, belly and feet respectively. From the innumerable body hair of the Lord, fruits, flowers and herbs were produced. From his east-facing head, Lord produced Gayatri mantra, Rigveda, and Yagyas. From his south-facing head, he produced Yajurveda. From west-facing head, he produced Samaveda, and from his north-facing head, he produced Atharvaveda. Chapter 3, Divisions of Birth and Origin of Cereals. With the desire of creating the world, Brahma produced different kinds of human beings from his different organs. Thus, from his mouth, Brahmans appeared. Kshatriyas appeared from his chest, Vaishyas from his thighs, and from his feet, Shudras appeared. Thus, physical body is the greatest means for human beings in order to achieve his goals. With time, the human beings lost their divine virtues and perfections. Jealousy, sorrow, decay and infighting began to rise among the people. In order to earn their livelihood and run their life peacefully, the human beings developed agriculture and other handicrafts. O sage! Paddy, barley, wheat, lesser cereals, sesame, millet, rice, peas, pulses, beans, rye, Gram flour and hemp are common agricultural produce that have edible as well as medicinal values in the villages. These and other produce are also used as oblations in the yajnas because all of them have produced as a result of yajnas. Performing yajnas daily is the most virtuous exercise that every human being should undertake. This destroys the sins committed by common people. Chapter 4 Birth of Prajapati and their progeny. At one point, the process of creation got saturated and no increase took place in the number of living beings. Then, with a desire of continuing the creation, Lord created 9 sages from his thought. Then he produced 9 daughters and handed them over as the wives to those 9 sages. When initially produced sons of Brahma took to asceticism, he got very much infuriated. His anger was enough to burn all the 3 worlds. From this anger, Rudra originated, who was shining like the sun. There Rudra had appeared in half masculine and half feminine form. Immediately after his appearance, Rudra separated his body into 11 male parts and 11 female parts. Then Swayambhu Manu appeared from the body of Brahma. He agreed to follow Brahma's dictate of continuing creation. He got a woman Kshatripa who had also appeared along with him. Together they begot 2 sons, Priyavrata and Uttanpad, and 2 daughters, Prasuti and Akuti. These 2 daughters were married to Daksha and Prajapati respectively. Prajapati and Akuti gave birth to twins, Yagya and Dakshina. Yagya and Dakshina got married and produced 12 sons who later on came to be known as Yam, the gods. Daksha and Prasuti produced 24 daughters, 13 of which were married to Dhruva. The remaining 11 daughters were married to Bhrigu, Shiva, Marichi, Angira, Pulastya, Pulaha, Krathu, Atri, Vashishta, Agni and Pitas. From his 13 wives, Dhruva produced Kama, Darp, Niyam, Santosh, Lobha, Shrut, Dand, Naya, Vinay, Bodh, Vyavasya, Kshema, Sukh and Yash. Kama got married to Rati and produced Harsh. Darp married Hinsa and produced a son Anrith and a daughter Nikriti. Anrith and Nikriti got married and produced Bhai and Narak and their wives Maya and Vedana. Maya produced Mrityu, the destroyer of all the creatures in the world. Vedana produced a son, Duk. Mrityu produced Vyadhi, Jara, Shok, Trishna and Krodh. These are all the fierce appearances of Lord Vishnu and cause Pralaya. The omnipresent eternal God creates this world in the form of Manus, protects it and ultimately destroys it. There are 4 kinds of Pralaya: Namitic, Prakritic, Atyantik and Nitya. Among them, Namitic is Brahma Pralaya, during which God takes a nap. During Prakritic Pralaya, the universe annihilates in nature. Annihilation of yogi in the Supreme Being is Atyantik Pralaya, and a decay of physical elements that continues day and night is Nitya Pralaya. Chapter 5 Creation of Rudra and of Lakshmi. In the beginning of Kalpa, when Brahma was thinking about a son, who would be like him in virtues, a boy with reddish-blue body appeared in his lap. Brahma addressed the boy with names like Rudra, Bhav, Shiv, Ivan, Pashupti, Bhima, Ugra and Mahadev. Brahma also fixed Surya, water, earth, air, fire, sky, Dikshit, graduate scholar, Brahman and the moon his abode. Since then, all these things idolize Shiv. These 11 idols of Shiv have wives like Suvachala, Usha, Vikeshi, Apra, Shiva, Swaha, Disha and Rohini. Kshandaishcha, Shukra, Lohitang, Manojav, Skand, Sarg, Santan and Buddha are the sons of these idols respectively. Rudra himself got Sati, the daughter of Daksha Prajapati, as his wife. Sati had committed self-immolation because of the disrespect that her father had shown for her husband. In her next birth, she had appeared as Parvati, the daughter of Himalaya and Mana. Parvati too got married to Shiv. Kyati got married to Bhrigu and gave birth to two sons Dhata and Vidhata and a daughter Lakshmi. Lakshmi then married Lord Vishnu. Maitreya says, O sage, it is heard that Lakshmi was produced from Kshatrasarga during the churning of the sea, but you say that Lakshmi was the daughter of Bhrigu and Kyati. How is it possible? Parashar says, O great Brahman, Lakshmi, who never separates from the Lord, is herself eternal like him. But still, as you have expressed your doubt, I will narrate you the real story. The famous short-tempered sage Durvasa is a partial incarnation of Shankar. One day, he was wandering on the earth when all of a sudden, he happened to see an extremely divine beauty. She was wearing a garland of beautiful flowers. The sage requested the beauty to give him that garland. She presented the garland respectfully to the sage. The sage adorned the garland on his head and began to wander again. Right at that moment, he saw Indra riding on Airavat and going somewhere in the procession of the gods. Instinctively, sage Durvasa put that garland around the neck of Indra, but Indra removed it and put it on Airavat's head. Airavat pulled the garland with his trunk and smashed it on the ground. This whole sequence of events infuriated Durvasa, who cursed Indra. O Indra! You are so inebriated with your luxuries that you dared to insult my humble gift. Hence, all your splendor shall be destroyed. You will lose all your wealth. Indra at once descended from the elephant and began to request sage Durvasa. Durvasa said, Indra, forgiveness has no place in my personality. So, all your repenting is meaningless. Saying this, sage Durvasa departed from the scene and Indra too left for Amravati. Very soon, the curse began to show its influence. With the loss of Indra's luxuries, all the verdancy on the earth too began to wane. Hermits too began to give up yajnas. All the human beings began to be guided by greed and gave up pious virtues. And at a place where pious virtues have no room, Lakshmi too doesn't stay there. She made her abode in the abysmal depth of the sea. Very soon, the demons launched an attack on the gods and drove them out of heaven. Indra along with other gods approached Brahma and told him the whole thing. Brahma suggested them to take refuge at Lord Vishnu. He assured them also that Lord Vishnu would definitely protect them. Brahma even accompanied the gods to Lord Vishnu. There, they together prayed Lord Vishnu and intimated him about their ordeal. Pleased by their prayers, Lord Vishnu appeared before them and said, I will definitely help you regain your splendor. Presently, do what I say. You reconcile with the demons and convince them to carry out the churning of the sea. Then bring all kinds of herbs and put them in the sea. With the help of the demons and using Mandarachal as churner and Vasuki, the nag as the rope to carry out the churning of the sea. Thus, you will recover ambrosia, drinking which, all of you will become immortal and regain your strength. Following the advice of Lord Vishnu, the gods reconciled with the demons and convinced them to carry out the churning of the sea. They together procured all kinds of herbs and put them in the sea. Then they began the churning using Mandarachal mountain. As soon as the churning began, Mandarachal began to sink. Lord Vishnu took incarnation of Kachchap, the great tortoise, and bore the weight of the mighty mountain on his back. During the churning, Kamdenu, the wishful cow, was the first to emerge. It was presented to the sages as an aid for their yajnas. It was followed by the damsel, Varuni, Kalpavriksha, the wishful tree, after which beautiful elves appeared. The moon followed the Apsaras and was taken up by Shiva on his forehead. During the churning, huge quantity of poison had also emerged. It was drunk by Lord Shiva and some parts of it were taken up by the serpents. In the end, Manvantara himself emerged from the sea carrying the urn of ambrosia. It was during the churning itself that Lakshmi appeared once again from the sea holding lotuses in her hands. All the sages prayed her. Then taking bath with divine water, Goddess Lakshmi took her seat in the heart of Lord Vishnu. When the demons saw that Lakshmi had chosen Lord Vishnu's heart as her abode, they got perplexed. They at once snatched the urn from Manvantara and ran away. Then a row broke out among them over the drinking of ambrosia. Each of the demons wanted to drink ambrosia in maximum quantity. Meanwhile, Lord Vishnu also arrived there in the guise of an extremely pretty woman Mohini and took possession of the urn. Mohini had pleased the demons with her sweet smile while distributing ambrosia among the gods. Thus, the gods came to drink ambrosia. When at last, the demons realized that they had been cheated, they immediately attacked the gods. But since the gods had regained their strength, they soon defeated the demons without much ado. Afterwards, the gods prayed Lord Vishnu and returned to heaven to rule it. The world also regained its verdancy. After regaining his splendor, comforts and luxuries of the heaven, Indra prayed Goddess Lakshmi with devotion and respect. Pleased by the prayers of Indra, Lakshmi asked him to seek a boon. Indra said, "O Goddess, if you are pleased with me, kindly bless me with a boon that first you will never desert this world and also that you will never desert those who worship you with this prayer." Lakshmi granted these boons. Thus, Lakshmi had appeared as the daughter of Bhrigu and his wife Kyati. Then second time, she emerged from beneath the sea during its churning. Thus, whenever Lord Vishnu takes an incarnation, Lakshmi accompanies him. When God appears in divine form, she too takes a divine appearance. When God appears in human form, Lakshmi appears in human form also. Chapter 6 Dhruva's migration to the forest. Swayambhu Manu had two sons, Priyavrata and Uttanpad. Uttanpad had two wives, Suruchi and Suniti. Suruchi had a son Uttam while Suniti had also a son Dhruva. King Uttanpad loved Suruchi more than he loved Suniti. One day the king was sitting on the throne. Prince Uttam was playing in his lap. Meanwhile Dhruva also arrived there and insisted to play in the lap of his father. At his insistence, Queen Suruchi ridiculed that as he was not born to her he had no right to the king's love. "So your insistence is useless. Though you are also a son of this king, but this throne belongs to my son. Don't you know that you have been born to Suniti?" Getting angry over his stepmother's ridicules, Dhruva went to his mother. Suniti consoled her son and inquired about the reason for his anger. Dhruva narrated the whole thing to his mother. Suniti too got perplexed and said, "O son, Suniti speaks the truth, but you don't worry, for no one can do away the virtues of your deeds that you performed in your previous birth. Hence you should not feel sorry over such petty things. If you feel really sorry by the words of your stepmother, why don't you try to gather virtues? Why don't you try to be a gentle and altruistic person?" Thus consoled by Mother, Dhruva said, "Mother, since now onwards, I will do every such thing so that I may attain the most respected position in the world. I am no longer desirous of getting a position granted by others. I will achieve the same position as my father has." Saying this, Dhruva left the palace and the town and reached a dense forest. 7 Munishwars, mendicants, were already present in the forest. Dhruva greeted them all and said very politely, "O great sages! I am the Prince Dhruva. King Uttanpad is my father and his younger queen Suniti is my mother. I have arrived here out of desperation." The sages said, "O Prince! You are just a small boy. You have no reason to be worried because your father is still alive and neither you have any disease. What then caused you such a severe desperation?" Dhruva narrated the whole events and also that how his stepmother Suruchi ridiculed about his inferior position in the palace. The sages said, "O Prince! Kindly tell us whatever you have decided to do to change your destiny and also tell us if we can help you in any way." Dhruva said, "O sages! I neither long for wealth or for the kingdom. I simply long to enjoy such a position that nobody have ever enjoyed earlier. Kindly help me and guide me what I should do to attain such a position." Marichi said, "O Prince! Nobody can attain such an unparalleled position without the worship of Govind, an epithet of Lord Vishnu, so you also worship that eternal supreme being." Atri said, "He who is far above the tangible can only satisfy him and bring you that supreme position." Angira said, "Go and worship Govind who holds the entire universe within him." Pulastya said, "Even the wretched people attain the rare salvation worshipping Hari." Pulaha said, "Go and worship that Vishnu worshipping whom even Indra attained the position of the God's king." Prithu said, "Go and worship Janardana who is supreme, who is deity of the Yagyas and Yagya himself." Vashishta said, "O son! You will attain whatever you wish by worshipping Lord Vishnu." Dhruva said, "O sages! At my prayers all of you told me about whom I should worship. Now kindly tell me what should I do to please the Lord." The sages said, "It is imperative for a person who wishes to worship Lord Vishnu that first of all, he should expel all other menial thoughts from his mind and replace them with the contemplation Lord alone. O Prince! Thus concentrate on that omnipotent eternal Lord with the mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya." Your grandfather Swayambhu Manu had himself recited this mantra during the previous age and had received the perfection of his desire. Chapter 7 Dhruva pleases God with his penance. The Prince Dhruva greeted the sages and continued on his journey. At last, he reached a beautiful forest Madhuvan on the bank of the river Yamuna. It was the same forest, which was later occupied by a demon Madhu. Shatrughna, the youngest brother of Lord Rama, had killed the demon Lavan, the son of Madhu, in the same forest and founded the township of Mathura. In the same forest, Prince Dhruva decided to carry out his penance. As per the dictate of the sages, he began to recite the mantra continuously. Very soon, the earth began to move because of Dhruva's severe penance. Even the seat of Indra could not remain stable. A stampede resulted among the gods. The gods then hatched a conspiracy to disturb the penance. According to the plan, an illusionary image of Suniti, Dhruva's mother, appeared before him and pleaded, "O son! Please stop this severe penance that is bound to decay your body. I got you after great desires and worship. It is not proper for you to take your stepmother's words so seriously and desert your real mother. You are my only support. You are only 4 or 5 years old. Presently you should pay more attention to your place and studies. Why are you observing such a severe penance then? O son! If you don't give up your penance right now, I will give my life." But Dhruva was so much sunk in the contemplation of Lord Vishnu that he did not hear the wailing of his mother. His mother then said, "Run, O son! Run away to save your life. Look! Formidable demons are approaching. They are carrying lethal weapons. Suddenly that illusionary image blew out intense fire from her mouth. That fire took appearance of many dreadful monsters, who were shouting loudly like, "Kill him, eat him." Those monsters bore the heads of lion, camel, crocodile etc. and appeared extremely formidable. The monsters were roaring loudly. But Dhruva's mind was deeply in contemplation. He neither saw the monsters or heard the noises made by them. Thus, seeing their all attempts failed, the gods decided to take refuge at Lord Vishnu. There they said, "O Lord, we have come to you perplexed by the severe penance of Dhruva the son of Uttanpad. His penance is increasing like a waxing moon. We are not sure if he desires for the position of Indra, Surya, Kuber, Varuna or any other deity. But kindly remove our fears." Assuring the gods, the Lord said, "That boy has no desire for attaining the position of any deity. But I will definitely grant him whatever he desires. But all of you need not worry." The gods greeted the Lord and returned. Ultimately pleased by the severe penance of Dhruva, Lord Vishnu appeared before him in his formal four-armed form and said, "Dhruva, may it all be well for you. I am very much pleased with you." Hearing these words, Dhruva opened his eyes and to his amazement found Lord Vishnu standing before him. For a moment he did not believe his eyes. Standing before him was the same Lord Vishnu whom he used to see in contemplation. For a moment, Dhruva forgot how to pray God. He then took refuge of God and said, "O Lord, if you are pleased with me, kindly bless me with power to pray you. My mind is accelerated with devotion for you. It wishes to pray you." Hearing these words, the Lord touched Dhruva with his conch, and as soon as it happened, an unbinding stream of devotional prayer sprang from Dhruva's mouth. At the completion of the prayer, Lord Vishnu said, "O son, your penance succeeds with my sight, but my presenting a sight should also not go waste. So seek a boon of your desire." Dhruva said, "O Lord, nothing is hidden from your divine sight. I started this severe penance out of desperation caused by the harsh words of my stepmother. She had ridiculed my insistence of playing in my father's lap, saying that as I was not born to her, I had no right to the king's love. Hence, O Lord, I wish to attain such a position that could be the base of the entire universe." Lord said, "O son, you were born in a Brahman family in your previous birth. Then you had pleased me by your obedience to the religion. You were also a friend of a prince and wished to enjoy the same royal luxuries that your friend was enjoying. You had in fact wished to be a prince. Hence, O son, you are born as a prince in this birth. It is rare to get a place in the lineage of Swayambhu Manu. But this honor has no value for a devotee like you. O son, I will definitely accord you the position that is excellent among all the three worlds. In future you will be the base of all the planets and all the constellations. I grant you a fixed position that is far above the sun, the moon, the planets, constellations, Saptarishis and all the gods who fly about in divine aircraft. Besides it, you will stay there for a complete kalpa, whereas even the gods do not stay in their position more than a single Manvantara. Your mother Suniti too will come to stay with you as a bright star for the same period of time. There she will stay on an aircraft. People will see you with faith, for you will show them the right direction." Thus receiving a boon from Lord Vishnu, Dhruva occupied a fixed position in the northern sky. Even the sage like Shukracharya praises Dhruva that how fortunate he is. that even Saptarishis go around him. That pivotal position of Dhruva would continue even in the ages to come. Chapter 8 Tale of the King Vena and Prithu. Parashar says, with the help of Dhruva, his wife gave birth to 2 sons, Sishti and Bhavya. Sishti had 5 sons, Ripu, Ripunja, Vipra, Vikal and Vriktija. Ripu had a brilliant son, Chakshush. Chakshush had a son, Manu. Manu had sons, Puru, Kuru, Shatyumna, Tapasvi, Satyavan, Suchi, Agnishtam, Atiritra, Sudyumna and Abhimanyu. Kuru had sons Anga, Suman, Kyati, Kratu, Angira and Shivi. Anga had a son named Vena. The sages had churned the right hand of Vena to produce a son named Venya. He later on became renowned as Prithu. He had even milked the earth for the benefit of his subjects. Maitreya says, why did the sages churn Vena's hand? What was their purpose of getting Prithu? Parashar says, Mrityu had his first child as a daughter named Sunita who was married to Anga. Sunita had given birth to Vena. Vena had all the faults of his maternal grandfather Mrityu and hence was devil-like in nature. At the time of his coronation, Vena had declared, I am the god and the Yagya Purusha. Hence, in future, no one shall perform yagyas and donate dakshina. The sages praised him and said, O king, we speak about the benefit of you and your subjects. Through grand yagyas, we shall worship omnipotent Lord Hari. Thus pleased, he will grant all your desires. O king, in the kingdom of which kings, Lord Hari is worshipped as the presiding deity of yagyas, he fulfills all their desires. Vena said, who is greater than me and even venerable, whom you regard as the presiding deity of the yagyas? All the deities like Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, Indra, Vayu etc. are present in the body of the king. Hence, the king has all the virtues of these deities. Therefore, do what I say. Such as a woman's duty is to serve her husband, similarly it is your duty of all of you to obey my dictate. The sages tried to convince Vena repeatedly but in vain. At last, when he did not agree to their proposal, the sages killed him. Immediately after killing the king, the sages saw the clouds of dust rising all around. It was revealed to them upon enquiry that the subjects of a kingless kingdom have resorted to plundering and looting each other, and it was because of that stampede that clouds of dust were rising. The sages then churned the thighs of issueless king and produced an ugly black man. He was feeling excited and asked the sages what he should do. The sages asked him to Nishid, sit down, hence he came to be known as Nishag. His progeny came to be known as Nishagan. Appearance of Nishag did away with all the sins of Vena. The sages then churned Vena's right hand and produced prowessive Prithu whose body was radiating like fire. As soon as he appeared, bow and arrow and shield of Lord Shiva descended from heaven and all the subjects felt extreme joy. With the birth of such a pious son, Vena attained a position in the heaven. For the coronation of Prithu, Brahma himself had appeared there with the water from all the rivers and oceans, all kinds of gems and along with all the deities. Presence of chakra in right hand of Prithu pleased Brahma. This chakra of Lord Vishnu is present in the hands of extremely dominating kings. Such a king remains unaffected even by the gods. Thus occupying the royal throne, King Prithu was a boon for his subjects. He was so religious that the seas and mountains paved way for him. His flag always remained fresh and new. Even there was no need to sow the seeds, the earth herself provided all the cereals. Cows gave milk spontaneously, and every leaf of all the trees in the kingdom was full of honey. Immediately after his appearance, King Prithu organized a grand yagya. At the time of Somvishek, bathing with grape wine, during the yagya, a man and a woman appeared from the earth. The sages advised them to pray King Prithu. With folded hands they asked that the king had arrived moments before them. His reputation had not spread far and wide. Why should then they pray such a king? The sage said that they should pray the king for the great achievements he would attain in future. King Prithu thought that it was because of merits that a man becomes praiseworthy. Hence I will do exactly the same things that this couple would recite during the prayers, thought the king. Thus during the later course, King Prithu planted those virtues firmly in his conscience and ruled the earth. During his rule, he performed many great yagyas. During the anarchy of his father's regime, all the vegetation had been destroyed from all over the earth. There was nothing for the subjects to satisfy their hunger with. So, they approached him and said, "O great king! Due to the anarchy of your father's regime, the earth had annihilated all the cereals within her. Your subjects have no choice but to starve. Kindly protect us from this condition." Pitiable condition of the subjects infuriated King Prithu. Taking the divine weapons of Lord Shiva, he ran after the earth. In guise of the cow, the earth ran in all the three worlds, but wherever she went she found Prithu still chasing her. Thus shivering with fear, she ultimately appeared before him and said, "O king! Don't you see the sin in killing a helpless woman?" Prithu said, "If killing a wretched person benefits scores of other people, there is no sin doing so." The earth said, "You want to kill me in the interest of your subjects, but think what will be the base of the subject then." Prithu said, "You need not worry about that. I will myself support my subjects." These words frightened the earth. She greeted the king and said, "O king! All the tasks started with a distinct purpose reached their completion successfully. So I am telling you a way out of the present condition. Do then, as you desire. I can give out all the herbs and cereals that I have annihilated in the form of milk. So, for the benefit of the subjects, kindly produce such a calf for which I can give milk spontaneously with motherly feelings. You then provide me with a plain surface everywhere so that I can produce milk that is the seed of all the cereals and herbs." King Prithu then uprooted many great mountains with his bow and arrow and stored them at a single place. Before that there was no distinct demarcation of village, towns, cities etc. because of the plain surface of the earth, and there was no distinct sequence of cereals, cows, agriculture and trade. All these systems started from the time of Prithu. Since then people began to populate those parts of the earth that were plain. For the benefit of his subjects, King Prithu himself milked all the cereals from earth, making Swayambhu Manu a calf. It is the cereals that still sustain the entire population of the world. Since then King Prithu came to be known as the father of earth because he had spared her life. Chapter 9 Birth of Prachin and Prachetas. Pray God. King Prithu had two sons, Antardhan and Vadi, who were very religious minded themselves. Antardhan's wife Shikhandi gave birth to Ivirdhan. Prachin was the son of Ivirdhan and his wife, Gishna. Shukra, Gaya, Krishna, Vrij and Ajin were their other sons. Prachin was a great fosterer of his subjects. Through continuous oblations, he increased his subjects to great limits. King Prachin married again with Savarn, the daughter of Samudra, and they together produced 10 sons. All of them were known as Prachetas, who were expert in the art of archery. All of them observed serious penance under the sea for 10,000 years. Maitreya says, O great sage, kindly narrate to us the reason for which Prachetas observed severe penance under the sea. Parashar says, once by the inspiration of Brahma, King Prachin Barhi asked his sons Prachetas to continue the progeny in an honored way. Prachetas agreed to obey the dictate of their father, but they asked, O father, kindly narrate to us, what should we do to enable ourselves so that we could carry out the process of reproduction? King Prachin Barhi said that worship of Lord Vishnu was the only thing that enabled a person to achieve his desired objectives. He dictated his sons to worship Lord Vishnu. It was by the dictate of the father that all the 10 Prachetas observed severe penance for 10,000 years under the sea. At the end of their penance, Sri Hari appeared before them radiating with blue light like a freshly bloomed blue lotus. Accepting the greetings of the Prachetas, Lord Vishnu asked them to seek a boon. Prachetas then told the dictate of their father. Lord granted their boon. Thereafter all the Prachetas re-emerged from the waters. Chapter 10 Marriage of Prachetas and Birth of Prajapati. Parashar says, during the time when Prachetas were engaged in penance, the earth was unprotected. Hence, huge trees came to cover her everywhere on land. Their foliage was so dense that cut off entire sky, and the sun could not reach the surface of the earth. After their emergence from the sea, Prachetas got very angry when they saw the trees. In anger, they let out formidable flames mixed with ghastly winds and uprooted all the trees before reducing them to ashes. A massive destruction of the trees followed. Seeing that Soma, the king of the trees, approached Prachetas and requested, O kings, kindly relinquish your anger and listen to what I say. I will mediate a pact between the trees and you. The trees have produced an extremely pretty girl named Marisha. Her creation has been meant only for the continuation of your progeny. She will produce Daksha Prajapati, who will be as radiant as the fire and cause much increase in your progeny further. In the ancient times, a great savant of Vedas, sage Kandu, was observing penance at the bank of river Gomti. Frightened by his penance, Indra sent an Apsara Prabhalocha to create a disturbance. That elf successfully created a disturbance in the penance of Kandu, who then began to live with her in a cave. Kandu passed 100 years enjoying sensual pleasures with the Apsara. One day, the Apsara expressed her desire to leave for her heavenly abode. This came as a shock for the sage Kandu. He requested her to stay for some more time with him. The Apsara agreed to his request and stayed with him for another 100 years. Then once again she expressed her desire to leave for her heavenly abode. Once again, blinded by lust, the sage requested her to stay for some more time. Once again the Apsara stayed for another 100 years with Kandu. Thus, every time, when the Apsara got ready to leave, sage stopped her. The Apsara knew about the agony of separation that a person experiences who is blinded by lust. She also feared the curse that such a person might pour down out of agony. Thus she herself did not desert the sage, and their love kept on increasing like a new moon. One day, towards the evening, the sage hurriedly left his hut. Amazingly, Prabhalocha inquired about the reasons why he was going out in such a hurry. The sage replied that as it was dusk, he should offer his evening prayers. The sage's reply amazed the Apsara further. Laughingly, she said, O knower of religion, your day has ended after hundreds of years. Who will not be surprised to learn that your day ends after hundreds of years? The sage said, You had arrived at the river bank right in the morning today. You passed the whole day with me, and now it is evening. Why do you laugh at me then? Prabhalocha said, O Brahman, hundreds of years have passed since I had arrived at your hut. Perplexed sage asked her, tell me exactly how much time has passed in our present communion. Prabhalocha told the sage that they had together passed 907 years, 6 months and 3 days. Hearing this, the sage began to curse himself that he was so sunk in the carnal pleasure with the Apsara that he even forgot the time. He also began to fret that his whole penance had been brought to naught. Thus cursing himself, the sage also scolded the Apsara and asked her to leave his hut at once. The Apsara was shivering in fear while her whole body was drenched in sweat. When she left the hermitage, she wiped her sweat with the leaves of the trees. While having carnal pleasure with the sage, Prabhalocha had conceived. Her fetus also oozed out in the form of sweat and was collected on the leaves. The wind brought the different parts of the fetus together while I nourished it with my rays. Thus the fetus grew safely and ultimately took birth as a girl child, Marisha. The trees will present you that same girl as your wife, said Soma. On the other hand, after his penance was disturbed, sage Kandu migrated to Purushottam region, modern Jagannath Puri, and began his penance afresh to please Lord Vishnu. Tale of Marisha's previous birth. Marisha, daughter of sage Kandu and Prabhalocha, was a queen in her previous birth. She had lost her husband without having any child. She had then pleased Lord Vishnu with her devotion. The Lord had then asked her to seek a boon. She said, O Lord, having been widowed at a young age, I feel that my life has gone futile. I am very unfortunate. Hence, O Lord, may I have by your grace a virtuous husband like you and sons like Prajapati in my next birth. May I take birth not from the body of my mother. Lord Vishnu said, all your wishes shall come true in your next birth. You will have 10 progressive and popular husbands. With their help, you will give birth to Prajapati whose progeny will populate all the 3 worlds. You will take birth not from your mother's body, still you will be unmatched in beauty. Thus, coerced by Soma, Prachetas dropped their angry stance and accepted Marisha as their wife. From the parts of Prachetas, Marisha gave birth to Daksha Prajapati who had emerged from Brahma earlier. Following the dictate of Brahma, Daksha Prajapati produced different kinds of living beings as his children. First of all, he created womenfolk from his mind. He got 10 of those women married to Dharma. 13 women were married to Kashyapa while 27 were married to Chandrama. All the gods, demons, nagas, cows, birds, Gandharvas, Apsaras, giants etc. are the progeny of those 50 women. Maitreya says, O great sage, I want to hear the tale of origin of the gods, the demons and all other creatures in detail. Parashar says, Daksha created the sages, Gandharvas, demons, and serpents from his mind first. But none of those creatures could continue the progeny. So, with an intention of producing his progeny through carnal union, Daksha married Asini, the daughter of another Prajapati. Daksha and Asini together produced 5,000 sons. All of those sons were eager to continue the process of reproduction when Devarshi Narada approached them and said, O children, it appears from your action that all of you are eager to begin the process of reproduction right now. But before you do anything, kindly listen to what I say. All of you are so ignorant that you do not know anything about the earth. How then will you carry out the reproduction? Look, you can move anywhere in the universe, so why don't you go and see the end of the earth? Thus motivated by Narada, All the 5,000 sons of Daksha dived into the sea and never returned thereafter, like a river annihilates in the ocean. Daksha then married Varuni and produced 1,000 sons. They also intended to carry out reproduction but were misguided by Narada. They too followed the footsteps of their elder brothers. Learning about the fate of his sons, Daksha cursed Narada. Then Daksha and Varuni gave birth to 60 daughters. 10 of them were married to Dharma, 13 to Kashyapa, 27 to Soma, 4 to Arishtnemai and 2 to Angira and Krishaswa. Arundhati, Vasu, Yami, Lamba, Bhanu, Marutwati, Sankalpa, Muhurta, Sadhya and Vishwa were the wives of Dharma. Vishwa gave birth to Vishwadeva, Sadhya to Sadhyagna. Marutwan was the son of Marutwati. Vasu gave birth to 8 Vasis. Lamba gave birth to Gosha, Yami to Nagvyati, whereas Arundhati gave birth to all other creatures that dwell on earth. Sankalpa produced Sankalpa, that is omnipresent resolution. Names of the 8 Vasis were Api, Dhruva, Soma, Dharma, Anil, Pratyush and Prabhas. Vakand, Shrama, Shant and Dhwani were the sons of Api. All annihilating Kalv was the son of Dhruva. Vamśa was the son of Soma. Bravin, Huta, Ityava, Shishir, Pran and Varuna were the sons of Dharma. Manojav and Avigatgati were the sons of Anil. Sharastam, Shak, Vishak and Naigmaya were the sons of Anil. Pratyush had a son Deval. Vatstri, the sister of Brihaspati, was the wife of Prabhas. They had Vishwakarma as their son. Vishwakarma himself had 4 sons, Ajagpad, Ahibhunya, Tavoshta, and Rudra. The great penancer Vishwarup was the son of Twesta. O great sage! Her, Bahurup, Trayambak, Aparajit, Vrishakapi, Shambhu, Kapradi, Ravat, Mrigvyad, Sherpa and Kapali are the 11 Rudras. Sage Kashyapa had 13 wives: Aditi, Diti, Danu, Arishta, Sursa, Kasa, Surbhi, Vinta, Tamara, Krodvasha, Ira, Kadru and Muni. Now listen to the description of their progenies. During the previous Manvantara, there were 12 gods named Tushit. At the end of the Manvantara, they met together and said, O brothers! Let us now enter the womb of Aditi and take birth as the gods again in Vavasvat Manvantara. Thus, Vishnu, Indra, Ayama, Datta, Tavoshta, Pusha, Vivaswan, Savita, Matra, Varuna, Anshu and Bhaga, these 12 sons of Aditi came to be known as Aditya. The 27 wives of Soma gave birth to many talented sons. Wives of Arishtnemai gave birth to 16 sons. Thus in all 33 gods including 8 Vasis, 11 Rudra, 12 Aditya, Prajapati and Vashatkar have been described in the Vedas. All of them are capable of taking birth at will. Just as the sun rises and sets, similarly these gods also appear in different yugas. From the part of Kashyapa, Diti gave birth to 2 invincible sons, Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksh, and a daughter Sinhika who was married to Viprachiti. Hiranyakashipu had 4 sons, Anuhlad, Ahlad, Sahlad and Prahlad. Chapter 11 Tale of Prahlad and Narsimha Incarnation. Parashar says, by the boon of Brahma, Hiranyakashipu had acquired tremendous power and came to control all the 3 worlds. He had driven the gods out of heaven and used to receive the oblations offered to Surya, Vayu, Agni, Varuna, Chandrama, Kuber, Yamraj etc. Because of his fear, all those gods roamed on earth. All the creatures began to worship Hiranyakashipu. Beautiful and amorous elves danced in his palace while Gandharvas accompanied them on instruments. Prahlad was the youngest son of Hiranyakashipu. Like other children, he too was sent to Gurukula to be educated. One day, his teachers took Prahlad to Hiranyakashipu, who was engaged in drinking of wine at that moment. Lovingly he took his son into his lap and asked, "O son, tell me, what you have learned so far in the auspices of your teachers." Prahlad said, "O father, I salute to that Sri Hari who has no beginning, no end and no mid-part, who doesn't take birth and who is free from growth and decay." Hearing this, Hiranyakashipu looked at the teachers with bloodshot eyes and shouted at them, "O wretched Brahmins! In sheer violation of my orders, you have taught my son to praise my enemy." The teachers tried to express their apology, saying that what Prahlad was saying was not taught by them. Hiranyakashipu asked then Prahlad who had taught him like that. Prahlad said, "O father, Lord Vishnu who resides in the heart of us all is the supreme creature. Who can teach anybody anything apart from him?" Hiranyakashipu said, "O fool! Who is that Vishnu about whom you are describing before me, the Lord of entire world?" Prahlad replied, "Lord Vishnu is he who is contemplated about by the yogis. He is the originator of the entire universe. His virtues cannot be described in words. That Parmeshwar is Vishnu." Hiranyakashipu said, "Fool! Who can be Parmeshwar other than me? Do you want to die that you are babbling like that?" Prahlad said, "O father, your anger is baseless. Lord Vishnu is the creator of all of us, including you and me. He controls our breaths." Infuriated Hiranyakashipu then ordered the teachers to take Prahlad away at once and wash his brain thoroughly. The teachers took Prahlad with them to their Gurukula. Prahlad began to concentrate in his studies. After many months, Hiranyakashipu once again called Prahlad to his palace and asked about his learning. Once again, Prahlad began to praise Lord Vishnu. This time, Hiranyakashipu ordered his assassination. He began to see his son as a threat to his throne. By the orders of Hiranyakashipu, many formidable demons attacked Prahlad with their weapons, but Prahlad stood unfazed. He said, "O fools! Lord Vishnu is present in you, in me and even in your weapons. May your weapons have no effect on me." Indeed, the weapons of the demons could not even touch Prahlad. Hiranyakashipu said, "I can still pardon your life provided that you stop praising my opponent." Prahlad said, "O father, I fear nothing. By the God's grace, I am free from the fear of birth and death." Hiranyakashipu then got Prahlad thrown amidst venomous snakes. But, biting by the snakes had no effect on Prahlad because his mind was contemplating in Lord Vishnu. Hiranyakashipu then got Prahlad trampled by big bull elephants. But even elephants could not harm Prahlad. Instead their tusks were broken as soon as they touched Prahlad. Even then Prahlad tried to pacify his father that it was Lord's strength that protected him every time. Prahlad's teachers, who were the sons of Shukracharya, then assured Hiranyakashipu that Prahlad was having a fickle mind because of his tender age. They also assured the demon king of transforming Prahlad and took him to their hermitage once again. Prahlad's preaching, but in the hermitage, Prahlad assembled other demon children and said, "Friends, listen to my preaching carefully and don't take it for granted because I have no personal interest in it. Every living being takes birth and suffers a lot while passing his life through childhood, youth and old age. The end result of life is nothing but death. It is one's karma that accompany him birth after birth. But in every birth, this soul mistakes hunger, thirst, cold or hot for the pleasures. More of the luxuries one collects, more the sorrow increases. Attachment and passion are the greatest cause of sorrow. Even after passing a life that is full of sorrow, one suffers the agony of death and rebirth again. This whole cycle continues again and again. Lord Vishnu is the ultimate refuge for the soul, which feels drowned in the ocean of sorrow. Don't be confused with my young age. I am a boy like you. But the soul that stays within me is eternal. The soul has no distinct stages in life. But a human being is inflicted with lot of misconceptions. In the childhood, he prefers to play than contemplating on God. In the youth, lust and carnal pleasures attract the mind. Still, a human being doesn't get serious about his benefit. He keeps on postponing his spiritual matters for his old age. But in old age, a human being has no option but to see his trembling fingers and repent about his past. Thus a human being spoils his whole life. A wise person hence must ignore the different stages of his body's stay on earth and make efforts for his benefit right in his childhood. What I have told you is unchangeable fact. Start reciting Lord Vishnu's name for my pleasure at least. His remembrance is enough to destroy all the sins. May your mind always contemplate on him day and night. Thus all your miseries shall come to an end. Chapter 12 Attempts to kill Prahlada. When the demons saw that their all efforts failed to face Prahlada and that he was preaching the demon children, they informed Hiranyakashipu about all these happenings. Hiranyakashipu at once called his cook and ordered him to poison Prahlada through food. But the poisonous food also could not hurt Prahlada. In fact, its poison was rendered ineffective by the recitation of Lord's name. This frightened the cook. He informed Hiranyakashipu about that miraculous event. Hiranyakashipu then ordered the priests who were Prahlada's teachers to invoke the ogress Kritya in order to kill Prahlada. The teachers tried to convince Prahlada before invoking Kritya. O Prince, you are the son of great Hiranyakashipu and have taken birth in Brahma's lineage. What have you to do with matters like God and all that? The whole world is dependent on your father. You should also take refuge of your father and stop praising his opponent. Father is revered and even greater than the teachers. Prahlada said, O fortunate ones! I know the prowess of my father. I also do not doubt regarding my father's reverence and greatness. I will not commit any crime against him, but kindly listen to me what I mean by the endless God. O teachers! There are 4 attainable goals in one's life. You ask me what have I to do with he, who helps all the human beings to attain these 4 goals: dharma, artha, kama and moksha. You are my teachers. You are free to say anything to me. But within me stays he who is the creator of all, who is the preserver of all, and who is the destroyer of all of us. Kindly forgive me if I have committed anything wrong in your honor. The teachers said, O foolish boy, we saved you from imminent death thinking that you are our disciple and that you will not balderdash in future. But still you speak nonsense. Listen, if you don't drop your stubbornness, we'll have to invoke Kritya the ogress in order to get you slain. Unfazed Prahlada said that life and death were immaterial for the soul that protects or destroys itself through auspicious and inauspicious deeds. Hence one should always strive to behave in an auspicious way. But Prahlada's words further enraged his teachers. They invoked the ogress Kritya to get Prahlada slain. Kritya hit Prahlada's chest hard with her trident. But as soon as the trident touched his chest, it broke into pieces without harming Prahlada. Seeing her attempt failed, Kritya killed the teachers and disappeared. His teachers' death caused immense pain for Prahlada. Mourning for their death, he prayed Lord Vishnu to resurrect them. Hearing his prayers, Lord Vishnu once again granted life to his teachers. The teachers got up as if from a deep slumber. They realized their mistake and blessed Prahlada and resolved never to have hostility against him. Then they went to the palace and informed Hiranyakashipu about all the happenings. Chapter 13 Lord's Virtues and Protection of Prahlada. Hearing the news of Kritya's failure to kill Prahlada, killing of teachers and their subsequent revival as effected by Prahlada, Hiranyakashipu called his son and asked if all those miracles were natural or he knew some magical tricks. Prahlada said, "O father, neither I know any magic nor is the miracle a part of my nature. All these are ordinary things for he who has eternal God in his heart. No one can harm those who never wish ill for the others. All the living beings are equal for him. In every creature, I see the same Lord Vishnu who is present within me. Hence I never try to harm him or her. I cannot even think of harming anybody. It is this feeling that protects me from every physical, mental or divinely discomfort." But these words failed to please Hiranyakashipu. He ordered his men to throw Prahlada from a very high fort. Even this attempt, however, failed to cause any harm to Prahlada, for the Mother Earth took him in her lap tenderly in the midway. Suspecting some illusionary powers helping Prahlada, Hiranyakashipu ordered Shambhasur to kill him using his illusionary powers. Shambhasur created many illusions to kill Prahlada. But right then Lord Vishnu sent his Sudarshan Chakra to counter those demonic illusions and protect Prahlada. Sudarshan Chakra destroyed all the demonic illusions one by one. Then Hiranyakashipu ordered Vayu to dry up Prahlada to death. When Vayu entered Prahlada's body and began to dry him up, the Lord came to stay in his heart, where God absorbed all the drying effects of the air, thus rendering it weak. After all those attempts failed, Prahlada returned to his teacher's hermitage and resumed his education once again. The teachers trained him all the relevant subjects. Then they once again took Prahlada to his father and told him that now his education was over. Hiranyakashipu asked, "O son, how should one behave with the others? Tell me what have learned so far. I am eager to know your opinions." Prahlada said, "O father, indeed my teachers have taught me in different subjects. I have too learned them with heart. They taught me that diplomatic policies should be applied in order to train friendship. But excuse me father, I see no friend or no enemy, so in my opinion these policies are totally irrelevant. Tell me, O father, what is the use of means when there is nobody to be trained? Lord Vishnu is present everywhere. In you, in me and in all other creatures. Hence instead of using in sinisterly actions, one should use his wits for good and benefit of all. O fortunate one, everybody longs for the throne and a big kingdom. But only those attain these things who really deserve and have them in their destiny. Even the most inert and imprudent people who are weak and know nothing about the policies get these things because of destiny. Hence all those who wish for splendor must strive to accumulate pious actions. Those who long for salvation must strive to acquire impartial view for all. Such actions please God, and when He is pleased all the miseries are attenuated." Hearing these words, Hiranyakashipu kicked Prahlada hard and ordered his demons to tie him in Nagpash and throw into the sea. The demons obeyed their master and threw Prahlada into the sea after tying him in Nagpash. With Prahlada's motion great disturbances occurred in the sea. Seeing that, Hiranyakashipu ordered the demons to cover the sea with huge mountains so that Prahlada could not get a passage to escape. When the demons uprooted huge mountains and put them into the sea, Prahlad began to pray God with concentrated mind. Chapter 14 Appearance of Lord. As soon as Prahlad began to pray the Lord, his nagpash broke and the mountains that the demons had thrown into the sea also lightened up, causing great relief for Prahlad. Lord Vishnu appeared before him and said, "O Prahlad, I am pleased with your devotion. You may seek any boon of your wish." Prahlad said, "May I always have an unconditional devotion for you. May your remembrance never be away from my heart." God said, "Your devotion for me shall always remain the same. Now, seek anything you wish." Prahlad said, "O Lord, my father has always cultivated hostility for you because of my devotion. May my father be free from the sin of his action." Lord said, "O Prahlad, all your wishes shall come true, but still seek any boon of your choice." Prahlad said, "O Lord, I don't want anything other than devotion for you." Lord said, "O Prahlad, you have nothing in your mind but devotion for me, so with my grace, you will attain supreme abode." Saying this, the Lord disappeared. In later course, ultimately Hiranyakashipu decided to kill Prahlad himself. He tied Prahlad to a pillar and, shouting abusively for God, he hit the pillar. As soon as he hit the pillar, it broke and Lord appeared from it in Narsimha incarnation. His appearance was extremely formidable with half human and half lion form. Dragging Hiranyakashipu to the threshold, he killed him with his powerful talons. After the killing of his father, Prahlad took over the throne and ruled his subjects religiously. If you enjoyed this audiobook, please like and subscribe to be notified of when new audiobooks are uploaded. Thank you for listening and learning. Shanti.